Hi everyone. Today let's talk about the inflation data. Then we'll hit the charts, and then we'll see how I did on the day and how I'm positioned for tomorrow. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So the inflation data came out today, and PCE was lower than expected. It rose by 0.2% in October, which is about 5% year over year, and that was less than expected. The expectation was 0.3%. Personal income jumped by 0.7%, a bit higher than the 0.4% estimate, and spending rose 0.8%. The weekly jobless data also came out very similar, 225, a little bit below the 235 expectation, meaning that the economy is still pretty strong and inflation is slowing. Moving over to the charts, starting with the S&Ps, the first candle on the 4-hour chart went right up to that pit 410 and sold off really dramatically all the way down to 404.80. And then we shot back up to about 408, and then we sold off into the end of the session. We're still sitting right below resistance, and it just looks like we're ready to sell off here tomorrow. Looks like we're sliding along that point. We're not making higher highs. We got overextended on the 4-hour, and we have weakening momentum. It just seems like this is getting ready to do what everyone thinks it's going to do, at least in my opinion. Moving over to the NASDAQ on the hourly chart, similar story here, shot up in the morning with the PCE and jobs data, went all the way down to about 291, rallied up to about 294, and then sold off into the end of the day. Again, looking very weak and extended. On the hourly chart, we have downward momentum forming here, and we did get the cross as well. RSI is starting to fade, and it looks like we're going to be moving down tomorrow. Looking at the IWM on the hourly, looks actually weaker than both of the other major indices. Jumped up, sold off, and then finished just about at its lows, just a few cents higher than its lows. And this looks pretty weak in my opinion, weaker than the other two actually. Moving over to transportation, this breakout is still holding. I'm waiting to see if this breaks back below this trend line. We did have a break just briefly in August, and then we moved down. But on the daily chart here, we did have a red bar, but not by much, and it's still holding at that level. I want to see this break down before we have a true indicator that we're going to make new lows across the markets. But transportation has been holding up strong, a little bit stronger than I expected. For top gainers, we have Etsy up over 5.5%. This is the weekly chart, so you can see big bottom here right at $70 or so. And then we had a nice solid higher low here. And then we're rallying right up to that 144 EMA on the weekly chart. I would expect this to stall out right at 146.60 or so. If we get another push up tomorrow, going down to the daily chart, you can see what this rally has looked like. It's definitely extended here on the daily chart. But Etsy, putting on a show here recently. Moving over to the dollar on the daily chart here. Big red bar once again. So we had big red bar yesterday, big red bar here again today, and momentum is actually picking up to the downside, which does put a little bit of a damper on the fact that I think the markets are moving down. Usually as the dollar goes down, we see stocks and in financial instruments moving up like bonds, and I think this is really what's holding the market in place right now. If the dollar was moving sideways here, I would expect markets to be selling off, but because the dollar is moving down, markets are moving sideways in my opinion. We are right at the bottom that we had here in August. We had a breakdown of this structure here, broke that 105.50 level that we were looking at yesterday. Now we're looking at about 103.70 as the next level of support if this area breaks where we are right now. Moving over to JNK on the 4-hour chart, you can see we had that big bar up yesterday, and today we sold off from there, did test this support and then rally slightly here. So we're back in this channel, resistance held, support held. If we're going to move down here, I would like to see a sell-off, something similar to what we had here in August. You can see we had that big top and then the big sell-off all the way to the lows. So now, in my opinion, I'm waiting for this to top here. And once we see some more selling in JNK, that should be a good indicator that the QQQ and the rest of the markets are going to start moving down. Moving over to TLT, I know we've been talking about it for a while here, but this rally continues to put on the burners. Bonds are moving higher, the dollar is moving lower, so that's good for growth and good for the NASDAQ. But this is going to end, and right now we're at the lows that we had here in September, and I think we're going to see some resistance right here at this 110 area. If you scroll out, you can see that also coincides with the low that we had here on 16 June. Finishing up today here with the VIX, as you can see, we are back down to the lows, testing the support we had here from August. A little bit more thoroughly here, not quite to that same level at about 1950, but getting close. Definitely testing the lows here in April. Again, with the VIX at such an extreme to the downside that we haven't seen here recently, going back to August and then once again here in April. Just seems like this is getting ready to kick back up. Maybe not all the way back up to the previous highs that we've been seeing in that 34 range, but it seems like we are due for a move higher in the VIX. Moving over to my portfolio, you can see down $43 today, basically flat. That's about 0.05% for me. Not a great day. Probably should have been a little bit green here today, but I was just pretty convinced that that first sell-off at the beginning of the day was going to be the sell-off that I have been expecting. And then we rallied through the day, so all of my short positions that I had on were a little bit red. You can see I threw on some more calls here for tomorrow because I do think we are going to sell off at least in the morning. So I have all of these calls laid on. And the covered portion of these shares that I had, I did roll out to $2.89. And I did that for a little bit of a debit here. So now I have $6.37 credit on these $2.89 calls. And you can see I did get a little bit of that money back here so far. Really tomorrow, if we do see a little bit of a sell-off, I'll probably let these shares go. And I'll start looking for a little bit more of a short position, maybe start selling some short shares if we do see the sell-off that I'm looking for. Otherwise, right now, I'm only a little bit short here at minus 30 deltas, and I do have 167 theta for tomorrow. Let me know down in the comment section where you think the markets are going. Is this the top, or are we going to shoot right through this level and make new highs? Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading, and have a great day.